The wind moved softly through the tall pines, carrying the smell of earth, moss, and the distant river. She walked slowly along the narrow trail, her boots crunching over fallen needles, her satchel bouncing gently at her side. 50 years had passed in what felt like a blink. Life had been full of work, of responsibility, of caring for others, but somehow love had slipped away like water through her hands. She told herself she was too old for it now. Love was for the young, for those with smooth faces and boundless time ahead. She was searching only for quiet, for a retreat where her heart could rest. She had rented a small cabin in the mountains for the summer, believing solitude would be her healing. Each morning she walked deeper into the woods, breathing in silence, feeling the weight of years slide from her shoulders. The further she went, the more the world she had known seemed to vanish, replaced by towering trees, birdsong, and the slow rhythm of nature. She thought she was alone in this wilderness, but she was not. High in the mountains lived a man whose life had been shaped by the land. His shoulders were broad, his beard touched with silver, his hands marked with years of work, cutting wood, building shelter, tending fire. He had chosen to live away from the noise of people, trading society for the companionship of forest and sky. But within his chest beat a heart that longed, even after all these years, for someone to share the silence. He carried no illusions. He knew life had passed swiftly. Yet he also knew love had not left him, it had simply not arrived yet. Their worlds collided one afternoon near a river swollen by the melting snows. She stepped across slippery stones, her eyes fixed on the far bank, when her foot slipped. For a breathless moment she thought she would fall into the rushing water. But before she did, a strong hand gripped her arm, steadying her. She looked up into eyes that were deep and steady, the eyes of a man who had lived through storms and still stood tall. Her heart raced with the shock of the moment. She brushed a strand of hair from her face, embarrassed by her stumble, and whispered with a nervous laugh, "I'm too old for such clumsy things, and too old for much else." He studied her with a calm that seemed to rise from the mountain itself, and his reply was simple but powerful. "I've been waiting for you." Those words lingered in the air like a spell. She did not know what to say. Part of her wanted to dismiss them, to believe it was only kindness from a stranger. But another part, buried deep inside, felt the truth of them. The days that followed unfolded gently, like the turning of pages in a book neither of them had expected to write. He invited her to his cabin, a place built of logs, warmed by fire, its walls decorated with tools and mementos of a life lived in the wilderness. She shared simple meals with him, bread, berries, roasted fish. They sat before the fire, telling stories, laughing at little things, falling into a rhythm that felt natural and unforced. She found herself listening to the quiet with him. He showed her how to hear the language of the forest, the call of an owl at dusk, the movement of deer in the brush, the whisper of wind against the peaks. She began to see through his eyes, to understand that silence was not emptiness but fullness, a canvas painted with peace. And he, in turn, discovered warmth in her presence. Her laughter, though soft, filled the cabin like sunlight. Her kindness reminded him that gentleness could live alongside strength. He realized that all the years he had lived alone had been preparing him for this companionship. Yet doubt shadowed her thoughts. At night, beneath the stretch of stars, she confessed her fears. What if this is just a dream? What if I am too late for love? What if I am foolish to hope? He turned toward her, his hand covering hers, his voice steady. Love does not count the years. It counts the moments. And I want every moment with you. Those words struck her deeper than she expected. She had always believed her time had passed, that her chance at love had slipped away. But now, sitting beside him under the stars, she felt time bend and soften. Maybe love did not belong only to the young. Maybe it belonged to anyone brave enough to receive it. Slowly, she allowed her heart to open. Each morning when they walked the trails, her steps grew lighter. She watched the sunlight break over the peaks, the way the world glowed with newness, and she thought perhaps her life, too, could begin again. He walked beside her, his hand strong in hers, their silence filled with the comfort of belonging. Seasons seemed to shift around them. The mountains bloomed with wildflowers, rivers sparkled with melted snow, skies burned gold and crimson at dusk. With each passing day, the bond between them deepened. She no longer saw herself as too old for love. She saw herself as ready for it, at last. One evening, as the horizon blazed with the colors of sunset, he took her hand and held it gently. His eyes, filled with a lifetime of patience, met hers. "You are my forever," he said. Her breath caught, and tears filled her eyes, not tears of sadness, but of gratitude, of joy long delayed but finally found. She leaned against him, her heart no longer weighed down by doubt. Among the mountains, their love blossomed like the wildflowers that carpeted the meadows. It was not love rushed by youth, nor fragile with uncertainty. It was steady, enduring, seasoned by years, as strong as the granite cliffs that surrounded them. And so, the woman who once believed she was too old for love found herself embraced by it, and the man who had waited in solitude finally found the companion he had dreamed of. Together, they proved that love has no deadline, no expiration, no age too late. It arrives when it is meant to, sometimes late, sometimes unexpected, but always at the right moment. The cabin became their home, the mountains their sanctuary. Days turned into months, and still they walked hand in hand along the trails, their laughter echoing through valleys. The world beyond seemed distant, unimportant. What mattered was the fire in their hearth, the strength in their bond, and the knowledge that they had found each other when they had nearly given up hope. Love had not passed her by. It had been waiting, patiently, in the heart of a mountain man who had lived his life with quiet strength. And when she was ready, when she had almost stopped believing, love stepped forward, caught her hand, and whispered that it was never too late.